Hey friends, you're listening to All Aboard the Dream Train, a dream storytelling podcast where stories and experiences created by the unconscious brain are retold by the waking brain. Hey folks, I hope your day is going well. Thanks again for listening and welcome back. This is episode 9, and if this is your first time listening, to give you a quick idea of how this works, each episode, I interview a new guest and ask them some questions about themselves, followed by some questions about their sleep hygiene and their sleep habits, and then I invite them to share a few dream stories in as much detail as possible, and how those dreams have affected them in their waking life. Before we start today, I just want to clarify again that I'm not a dream expert. I don't interpret other people's dreams. If you're listening and you don't know much about dreams, you and I are on the same page. I hope that while listening to these stories, you can relate to some of the experiences that are being shared, and also I hope it inspires you to share your own story. Because as you will hear in today's episode, your story could help save someone's life. As you're listening to today's episode, I really want you to take a minute and really imagine yourself in the guest's shoes and just kind of picture yourself, envision yourself going through what she went through. I think with stories, and especially dream stories, it's easy just to hear words, but when you put yourself in that scenario, you kind of get a better sense of the situation. Before I introduce my guest today, I want to thank anybody that has supported the show so far through social media. If you could like, subscribe, review, and share the podcast, it would mean the world to me. Also, right now I'm working on a promo video for my Patreon. If you want to and are able to support through Patreon, it would mean the world to me. But I wouldn't expect you to do that without seeing and hearing the reason and motivation behind this project that I'm taking on. So just a heads up, that's coming in the near future. All right, let's just get into it. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and this episode is dedicated to anybody that has battled breast cancer firsthand, head-on, and to anybody that's lost a loved one to the disease. I'm extremely honored to even get the chance to talk to my guest. She is a 3-time breast cancer survivor. She is the author of Surviving Cancerland, Intuitive Aspects of Healing. She's the co-author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases, alongside of Dr. Larry Burke. She was featured on the Dr. Oz show, and she's the co-author of a brand new book coming out mid-November called Chaos to Clarity, a book that features men and women from around the world who faced change head-on, and how they became stronger and happier through their adversity. I had a lovely time speaking with her. Please welcome aboard Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos. Kathy, thanks again for giving me the time to speak with you. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me on your show, Mason. I've been really looking forward to this.
Awesome. Can you tell anybody that's listening your name and location?
Sure. My name is Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos, but my friends all call me Kat, just like the cat that runs around in your house, but it's spelled with a K. And the story behind that is I was born and raised in Europe because my dad was a Green Beret. And so I was a stranger in my own land when I came back to go to college. It was the first time I was here. And the Germans can't make the TH sound, so they always called me Kati. So I just stuck with Kat when I got back here to the States. And I am a 3-time breast cancer survivor, and I live many places still. I have a home in the Northeast, and a home in California, and a home down in Florida. And I call it the Canvas Triangle, and I go between those 3.
That's perfect. That really works out with the seasons and whatnot.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your hobbies and your passions?
Sure. My hobbies all deal with really life. My hobbies have turned into more than hobbies because my hobby for a while was writing down my dreams and putting them into dream journals. And then I took the first journal that I wrote about my cancer called Surviving Cancerland,
Hmm.
Intuitive Aspects of Healing. And I took that journal and I turned it into a book,
Hmm.
which was published by Cypress House, and then Blackstone Publishing came in and turned it into a really fabulous audiobook, and both of those are up on Amazon. And then I met up with, because my dreams actually diagnosed my breast cancer all three times,
Hmm.
um, I hooked up with a Dr. Larry Burke out of Duke University Medical, and he was doing dream research on breast cancer. I mean,
Wow.
how strange is that, right? We hear about sleep research, but we seldom hear about actual dream research. And
Yes.
he got funding from Duke University to do research on women who were coming in for radiation therapy, because he was chief of radiology at Duke University Medical.
Hmm.
And he would ask them, well, how did you find your cancer? Was it found in mammograms, MRIs? Did you feel a lump? And there was a group of women who were saying, no, I found my breast cancer in my dreams. And then I
Whoa.
came to my doctor and said, something's wrong, even though my mammograms are healthy, my blood tests are healthy, which is everything that I was going through. My mammograms were healthy, my blood tests were healthy, my physicals were healthy, and
Wow.
yet I was having recurrent nightmares
Hmm.
that I had breast cancer. And my nightmares revolved around monks coming into my dreams. And many of these women in Dr. Larry Burke's research
Hmm.
had dead relatives come into their dreams and tell them they had breast cancer. They had
Wow.
animals come into their dreams. One man in there had a big blackbird fly down onto his face and pick a worm out of his nose, and then he
Whoa.
crapped in it, and the
Whoa.
bird crapped in it, and he actually went to the doctor and told the doctor what happened, and the doctor was like, well, let's take a look at your nose.
Yeah.
And
Whoa.
there it
That's
was. He had
that's
cancer.
wow.
So I met up with Dr. Larry Burke when he researched women who had dreams that diagnosed their breast cancer, and he called me on the phone, and that's when we decided to promote his research that he was doing that had been published in medical journals by publishing a book
Hmm.
about the dream stories behind the research. And then what happened, Mason, is all these people started sending us their dreams about other cancers
Wow.
and other illnesses like diabetes, heart attacks. I mean, on and on and on.
Hmm.
So that we ended up with a book of more than 30 stories of dreams that diagnosed different illnesses.
That's amazing. And if those people hadn't heard about you guys doing
Mhm.
what you were doing, you would have never heard those other stories.
That's right. That's right. And now Dr. Larry Burke and I are actually getting ready to do the second book. We've sent in the book proposal to Inner Traditions. And we already have enough stories that have come in the past year for two more books. We have over 60 stories
Wow.
of dreams that diagnosed illnesses.
Yeah, that's amazing. That really is amazing. How would you describe yourself, Kathleen?
I would describe myself as probably just a regular person. I've gone through different layers of life, is what I like to call it. I started out, my first layer was being an army brat in Europe.
Hmm.
My next layer was when I graduated from college, Keene State College and Murray State University. Had a degree in teaching in psychopathology.
Hmm.
And I started my career as a teacher in teaching psychology at USF, University of South Florida. And then I met my husband, who made me an offer I couldn't refuse. He paid me more to stay home than I was getting paid to work.
Wow.
And so the only thing I really had to think about in life was, where I was going to go for lunch with my friends and what tennis outfit I was going to wear when I played tennis. And then I started having the dreams about cancer, and my whole life changed. I started focusing on how I could help other people connect with their dream realm
Hmm.
in order to improve their life. And that's what I'm doing now with the books. What started out as just a hobby, as you said, has
Hmm.
now become a new way of life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's just kind of progressed from there. And um, I've actually been listening to your book, Surviving Cancerland, and I'm really happy that it was on audiobook. It's just nice to be able to listen to that. But yeah, that's a
No,
great progression.
yeah, thank you for that. And one of the things about my books that might be different from a lot of other dream books that are out there, or
Hmm.
many dream books tell you how to interpret your dreams, and
Hmm.
they tell you about the different types of dreams, which we also do in dreams that can save your life. But
Hmm.
the book is chocked full of real dreams, just like my book Surviving Cancerland is dream after dream
Hmm.
after dream.
Hmm.
And I show you how I found my own dream language to decipher my dreams, interpret my dreams, so that they saved my life.
Hmm. It really is something you kind of just have to pay more attention to and interpret yourself some of the time for yourself.
Exactly, exactly. Because you know yourself, Mason, when you're having a dream, when I have a dream, and I had one the other night where I went down into the basement in my
Hmm.
dream, and I thought, oh my goodness, what am I doing in this dusty old dark basement?
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, I saw my mother's sewing basket slide across the floor into another room, and I thought, oh great, mom's here, because I'm not afraid of dead people. And so I followed the sewing basket into the other room, where there was a bench that my dad used to work on. And I thought, oh, that's great. Both my parents are here. And then
Oh.
suddenly this big shadow went across the wall, and it was a giant cobra. And I thought, well, that's still good. That's the Kundalini. And all of a sudden, that
Hmm.
cobra actually opened up into a huge cobra fan of
Whoa.
about 5 cobras. And I thought, I think it's time to leave until I figure out what that means in my dream language. So I ran up the stairs to the next level and got out of the basement. And I
Wow.
still haven't figured out what that means. But a snake to me is always something good. Whereas in somebody else's dream language, a snake could
Yeah.
be a scary thing telling them, caution, don't tread on me, don't come here.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's super interesting how different things can have different meanings to all of us. It makes a lot of sense, but you definitely have to figure out what works for you and what means to you.
Hmm.
What helps you relax or unwind at the end of the day?
Well, I meditate every night before I go to sleep.
Mm.
I meditate. And it's basically one of the same meditations that I open my radio show with on Dream Vision 7 every Tuesday night at 6. And I do it with my whole audience. And I just tell them, if you're driving, just listen, don't do it. But it really relaxes me and helps open up those sacred dream doors to the divine,
Mm.
because that's where you want to go. I really believe, Mason, that we're all born with guardian angels and spirit guides.
Mhm.
We're their job, and they really take that job seriously, and they speak to us through our dreams.
Super interesting. Yeah, I have a hard time kind of like staying still, so I'm working on meditating more, but um I guess that's kind of something you have to learn, and there's a different language for everybody on that as well.
Yeah. So if you want to figure out how to use a meditation to help you fall asleep, because I always tell myself, even if I'm really exhausted and I
Hmm.
fall asleep in the middle of the meditation, I'm falling asleep in a sacred space.
Hmm.
And so I have opened up the dream doors already, and it's okay.
Hmm.
So I invite you, Mason, on Tuesday nights, come in and do the meditation with me at the beginning of my show on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. It's
Hmm.
called Dreaming Healing. And then you can it's very quick, and you can use that at night before you go to sleep.
I'm going to do that, Kathleen. That sounds awesome. I'm going to try it out.
Great.
Do you have any sleep aids other than meditation? Do you have anything that kind of gets you in the zone, or is meditation
Well,
the
I
sole?
always try to make sure my bedroom's really dark.
Okay.
I like a really dark bedroom. I turn my phone off, which I didn't do before I got on your show with you, but I turn my phone off at night because, I have so many followers on Twitter and LinkedIn and everything. The phone would
Yeah.
bing all night long. So turn that off
Mm-hmm.
and get out of the earth plane. Those are all the things that hold you in the earth plane.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to go to that room between realms is what I call it. I call it the room between realms. And it's where you can connect with your divine dreams. It's a room that is neither of the earth, but it's not a room where you have passed over into the afterworld. It's a room where your deceased loved ones can come and visit you and give you divine information, and where you can go and connect with them. And it's a really important place. And as you enter that room more and more often and see your loved ones, and sometimes they'll walk up and hug you and you won't know who they are because they look so young and hot, which, when we die, we don't look old and decrepit anymore, Mason. We look hot. We are in our prime.
All right.
And sometimes we don't recognize our parents because they're younger than they were before they even had us, but they recognize us. And they'll come up and hug us. And that's how we know we're in the room between realms. And that's where we want to get to. And we can't get there if the TV's on and the phone is on and things are binging.
Right. Yep.
We've got to disconnect from from our waking world in order to get into our divine world of dreams.
That really is a special room. And it's so easy to get distracted and have all these. I mean, I'm guilty of it for sure, having my computer and my phone on, and I got to get better at that for sure. But yeah, it's a room where it's a private room. It's where we spend a lot of our time, when we're sleeping, and yeah, it definitely is a very special room.
It is. And as we get better at recognizing that room or following our spirit guides, if they take you in there, you'll start recognizing your spirit guides. Now, when I see a monk walk into my dream, I know I'm going into the room between realms because I need to get information, not only for myself, because I don't have to be afraid. It's not just them saying, oh, you've got cancer again. A lot of times it's information for other people, even my cats. My monks have taken me into the room between realms to warn me that my cat would die the next day because he was 26 years old. It's baby cakes that you hear about in the book, Surviving Cancerland.
Okay.
When he was going to die, my guides, my monk spirit guides warned me because they knew I was not going to take that well. So, yeah. We learn to watch for those spirit guides that can take us into the room between realms.
Do you share your bed, or do you have it all to yourself?
No, my husband's in my bed with me, and he's a great dreamer too. And we often dream for each other. Sometimes we dream in tandem. We'll share a dream, which is really cool. But it's something that used to happen 6,000 years ago in Egypt with Imhotep, who was one of the high priests for the sun god Ra. He had dreaming temples, which were then part of ancient Rome and ancient Greece. They became known as Asclepian dream temples. And if you were sick and you didn't know what was wrong with you, or let's say you were a woman and you couldn't seem to get pregnant, and back then, if you couldn't have a son, if you couldn't have a child, you kind of missed your calling in life.
Yeah.
So they would go to these Asclepian dream temples, and they would lie down on the hard floor next to their priest, and they would dream in tandem. And the priest would get into their dream and help guide them through what their spirit guides were telling them to do in order to become pregnant or in order to become successful. So sometimes that happens with my husband and I.
Very cool. It's very cool to share that, for sure.
So it's okay to, if you're married or you have a significant other, try dreaming in tandem with them. It will not only make you closer in your waking world, but it's going to make you closer in your dreaming world as well.
Yeah, it's interesting too. When you do share your dreams, you're a little bit different because you've been able to share your dreams with a lot of different people, but most people don't share their dreams outside of their bedroom, with their significant other.
It scares some people,
Yeah,
Mason. It really
yeah.
does. I was really lucky. I got to tell you, I was so blessed to have my husband Peter. When I was going through all of this breast cancer, not only did he quit work and stay home to take care of me, but when I would have these dreams where I would wake up in the morning and say, "Look, we have to go back to Boston," which was like an hour and a half right away, because I had another dream with my monk telling me I needed this test or that test, and he would drive me. He didn't question it. He would get in the car and he would drive with me. And there aren't a lot of men who would do that. In fact, if a lot of men, if you told them you had a dream with these Franciscan monks telling you to do this or that, the next time you would hear from them would be through their attorney.
Right.
So yeah, I'm very lucky to have him as my husband, and we've been married almost 40 years.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
How many hours of sleep on average do you get?
Oh, I am a big sleeper.
Yeah.
I love to sleep. So I need at least 8 hours. But if I'm having a really good early morning dream, like the one I told you about where I was down in the basement and I was like connecting with my mom's sewing kit and my dad's workbench, it was like, oh, I don't want to leave the basement, which are your basement, your house is your body in this life. And your attic is your higher being, your higher intelligence, your higher spirituality. Your living room is where you live, and your basement is your deeper subconscious thoughts, your past lives or your past memories. So I was kind of enjoying it down there in the dark basement. But that was an early morning dream, and although it was time to wake up, and I knew I was lucid dreaming. I decided to stay asleep for another hour while I finished that dream. So it's not unusual for me to sleep anywhere from 7 to 9 hours.
That's
I
great.
love to sleep.
It sounds like it. Yeah, it's really important. That's for sure. Is it broken up or is it consistent?
Oh, I can have like 3 or 4 different dreams a night. And when I was really dreaming hard for my health, is what I called it. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night. My spirit guides, as monks, would wake me up and say, "Write that down. You're going to forget it tomorrow morning."
Wow.
And I would just write stuff down in the dark. I would write down the most important things that would trigger my memory of the dream, because I was on a lot of medications too. I mean, when I was going through treatment, I was on so much medication that I could barely function during the day. So it was important to write my dreams down in the middle of the night, because it was important information, and that sometimes one dream would lead into another dream to give me layers of information from different people within those layers.
Wow. And it's really important to grasp and grab those details when you can, because if you wake up and do a little something in the morning, the chances are that you will lose that memory is very high.
That's right. And so in my book, Dreams That Can Save Your Life, there's a chapter on 7 steps to remembering your dreams.
Oh, cool.
And I use the word as an acronym, SHOW DREAM. And the first 2 letters of SHOW DREAM, the S, is set your intention at night before you go to sleep. Say to yourself, I want to meet my spirit guides. Or even write it down on a piece of paper. Your dream journal is there. Write it down on the dream journal. I want to meet my spirit guides in my dreams tonight. And then O for so is organize yourself. Make sure you've got that pencil, that paper, your little flashlight or your cell phone flashlight ready to go. Yeah. Whatever it is, so that if you wake up, you can immediately write down what you were dreaming about so you don't forget it.
super important. I've done that many, many times where I get up and walk around and I totally forget what I was going to write down.
Yes, as soon as it turns into puffs of smoke,
Yeah.
and you can't remember it. But one of the things that I did throughout my treatments, because sometimes I couldn't remember my dreams, I was so wigged out on drugs. It was just amazing. My brain was pickled.
Yeah.
And so I would carry a little notebook around in my purse, and if part of a dream would come back to me during the day in a daydream through synchronicities, I would sit down. I didn't care where I was. I would sit down and I would start writing right there in my little notebook. And I've had people look at my husband and say, "What is she doing?" And Peter would say, "She's writing down her dream." And this one woman looked at him and said, "Can we make her stop?" And he said, "I don't think you want to try."
Yeah.
So yeah, just write your dreams down when you have them in daydreams during the day.
Sometimes you get lucky and they come back, but
yes.
What's your favorite sleeping position?
If I found that's a great question, Mason, because I found that if I sleep on my back, I have nightmares. And nightmares are often a gift in disguise. It's very easy to forget a nice, happy little warm dream. It's almost impossible to get a nightmare, and you can remember all the details in it as well. So if I get on my back, I will often have a really vivid nightmare.
Wow.
But I am one of those people who likes to sleep on their side, wrapped around a pillow, or one of my cats. I'll wrap around the cat like they're a stuffed animal, and they love it.
That works out then.
Yeah.
Now that you said that, do you ever, if you haven't had a nightmare in a while, do you ever fall asleep on your back just to kind of check in? Or is it a pretty rare occurrence where you end up on your back and have a nightmare?
No, sometimes, I can have really great dreams during the day during a nap if I'm sleeping on my back. I'll get information and I'll go, oh my gosh. In my dream, I'll say, oh my gosh, don't forget that. You need to write that down.
Yeah.
So, if you find that you're one of those people who has trouble remembering your dreams, or you say you don't dream, you do dream. There's research that says you absolutely do dream.
Yeah.
Try just taking a short cat nap on your back. Have your pencil and paper beside you and write down anything you remember, anything at all. That's part of A for so dream, the A. Anything at all you remember, write it down. Colors, people. Yeah. Did you have people in your dreams? You may not remember who they are, but were they there? And you start training yourself to remember your dreams and learn your dream language. That's how it starts out. Small baby steps.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then my final question, what interests you in dreams?
I think what really interests me in dreams is how we really don't die, how there is another realm, Mason, because how else can you explain that now it's like 100 people that we weren't even looking for that showed up, just like me, had a dream that told them they had a disease or they had a condition. Then they went to the doctors, and the doctors confirmed it with a pathology report. That's amazing. That's like backward. Really? A lot of people will say, oh, well, I went and I found out I had this, this disease. I found out I had diabetes. And then I started having all these dreams about it.
Yeah.
This is opposite of that. This is, the doctors told me I was healthy. Then I started to have these nightmares. And my dead relatives came in and told me I had diabetes or I was going to have a heart attack. My dead daughter came in and said, you're going to have a heart attack. And then I dismissed it. And as I started to have the heart attack, I remembered the dream, dialed 911 as I was passing out, and they backtracked the call and brought me back to life. That means that there is a door to the divine, Mason. And when we die, we don't just cease to exist. There is a higher power. We have guardian angels, and we have loved ones who are always with us, always watching. And that is amazing. This is proof The pathology reports are the first time I think we're really getting proof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had a few stories that have been shared on the podcast, and they're about people that were deceased and came back to let the people know that everything was going to be okay. And we're talking like stories where the person that went through this traumatic experience was having severely depressed, and
Mm-hmm.
wasn't able to get any answers. And no matter how many people told them it was all going to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't mean anything until the deceased person came back and told them.
Yes. And in the book that's coming out in November, I think we were talking about this before we started recording the podcast. The book is coming out under Sacred Stories Publishing, From Chaos to Clarity.
Okay.
And there's a whole section in there under love and loss,
Mm-hmm.
where women lost their loved ones, they lost their husbands, and they were contemplating suicide.
Mm-hmm.
When the husbands came back in to their dreams and helped heal their hearts by saying, I'm not gone. You just can't see me. And please don't join me before you're supposed to.
Yeah.
We will be together again. In the meantime, you have to do this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. And then there was validation in their waking world that, yes, these things were true. Yeah. So, just what you said, that validation comes in the waking world, and it can mend a heart. It can mend a broken heart.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very powerful stuff. Will you kind of go into that book? And that's your most recent coming up book that's coming out in November, is that right?
Yes, it will be. Our launch date is November 19th, and it's Chaos to Clarity through Sacred Stories Publishing. And there are some incredible dreams in that book, so I'm going to introduce you to some of those authors so that they can come and be on your podcast, because their dreams are amazing.
Great. That sounds awesome. And you have Surviving Cancerland is another one that I've been making my way through. Are there any other books that you've came out with?
Well, Dreams That Can Save Your Life has the one that I co-authored with Dr. Larry Burke, Chief of Radiology at Duke University Medical. And that's now out in audio as well. And it's been translated into, of all languages, Italian.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So the book is actually out in Italian. If you're listening and your mom is from the old country, get the book for her in Italian, because there's a whole section in that book where mothers were dreaming for their daughters to save their daughters' lives, and daughters were dreaming for their mothers to save their mothers' lives.
Is there anywhere else people can find you if they don't already know who you are?
Sure, you can go to my website, and actually on my website there's a free gift for you today. It's a free download for a 101 dream journal, and so all you have to do is go in and put the name of your podcast, put Mason in there, and the Dream Train, and you can download that for free, and you'll see my Dr. Oz show there. I was on Dr. Oz talking about precognitive dreams that can save your life. I was on there for the whole hour with him, and you can watch the show on my website. I can't put it on social media sites for copyright issues, but you can watch it right there on my website. I am allowed to put it on there. So you can go to Kathleen, Kathleen O'Keefe, O''K EEFE, Kanavos, just like the cannabis you smoke, but with a K, ANAV as in Victor, OS. Or you can just type in The Queen of Dreams, because that's the title of 2 columns that I write for in 2 different magazines. And you can see all that on my website. There's tons. Just go on there and play. Have a good time.
There is a lot on there. I've been on there. It's jam-packed full of videos and articles and all sorts of stuff. Will you kind of just give us a preface of the story that you're going to tell, a little bit about it, if it's a recurring dream or lucid, and then kind of just get into it.
Sure. I'm going to talk about the dream that started everything off. Started Dr. Larry Burke searching for me. Started the idea of writing the book. Started the whole premise that our dreams can diagnose illness, and it's about the monks. So the year is actually 1998, and at that time I was in Boston / Cape Cod, Massachusetts. But during this time I was with my gynecologist, who was also, my general practitioner. And he kind of looked like Gary Cooper. I talk about that in the book that you're listening to on tape.
Yeah.
And so I'm in his office for an examination, and I have a mammogram, a blood test, and a physical exam. And he tells me I'm healthy. Congratulations, go home. So I did. And at that time, I was 39. And I went home, and that night was the first night I had a dream in which I'm having my regular dream. And all of a sudden, my dream freezes, just like your computer page will freeze. And a pop-up pops up on the computer, just like on your computer, it pops up in my dream.
Wow.
And that pop-up window turns into a door. And through that door walks this Franciscan monk in a brown hooded robe with the rope belt and the leather sandals. And he walks up to me, and I'm looking at him going, well, that is really strange. And he goes, come with me, we have something to tell you. And I followed him through the pop-up door now into what I was talking about earlier, the room between realms.
Yeah.
And this is where things get a little different when it comes to regular dreams and the dream that I'm having that I'm telling you about now. This monk takes my hand and he places it on my breast. And he says, do you feel that? And I said, yeah. He said, that's breast cancer. You go back to your doctor without an appointment tomorrow, and you tell him you need a second set of tests. And then he led me back through the pop-up door that turned back into a window and disappeared, and my other dream started right back up.
Wow.
So I woke up hours later, and I'm going, now that was really strange, but I think I need to do it. So I went back to my doctor in Boston, and without an appointment, I showed up and I said, look, I just have this bad feeling that something's really, really wrong, and I want to do a second set of tests. And he said, well, what do you think is wrong? And I said, well, I just have a feeling something's wrong. I want another, a different test other than a mammogram. And he said, look, let's do the mammogram, the blood test, and the physical again. He says, I'm not feeling anything. You are too young for breast cancer, and it doesn't run in your family. So a few days later, the yellow sheet comes in the mail saying I'm healthy, no breast cancer, and I have the pop-up dream again.
Yeah.
And I have that same pop-up dream with the monks 3 times.
Wow.
And each time I go back to my doctor in Boston and tell him I need a second set of tests, and I still only get a mammogram, blood test, and physical. So the 3rd time I have this pop-up dream, and the monk walks in. As soon as he walks in through the pop-up door in my dream, I start crying.
Yeah.
And I said, I know why you're here, and I don't know what to do. My doctor's not listening to me. I can't perform a second set of tests on myself.
Yeah.
And if I really do have breast cancer, he's telling me I don't. I'm too young for it. Help me. Do something to help me. Or because I don't know what else to do. And this monk reached into his sleeve, which is really big, pulls out a little feather, little tiny white feather, like you would see on your floor out of your pillow in the morning.
Yeah.
And he hands it to me, and he says, think of this as a sword. And you go back to your doctor tomorrow, and you use this feather to cut through his red tape and his arguments, because now you need exploratory surgery. And if you use this feather like a sword, you'll get it. So I told my husband, we went back to the doctor. As soon as he saw me, he said, what are you doing back here? And so I told him, I said, look, I know something's wrong. But, Mason, I did not tell him I was having precognitive or recurrent dreams, because I knew I needed treatment, not a padded cell. or pills that were going to keep me from dreaming. And so I imagined that feather in my hand, pointing it at him. And long story short, he went out, got me an appointment for exploratory surgery.
Wow.
And during the surgery, they found that I was in stage 2 breast cancer with it in a lymph node. And that was really the beginning of the book, Surviving Cancerland. Because after that, my monks never left me. They constantly showed up in my dreams to guide me to the right chemos, the right treatments, the right foods to eat, the right people to be around. It was amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. Can you describe your feelings like that after the first morning you woke up after having that, it sounds like a kind of a scary, confusing situation. Can you describe your feelings upon waking up after that first dream?
You know, it's mixed feelings because it's like you've got this tug of war going on inside you, Mason. Mm-hmm. You want to believe the doctor. You want to believe you're healthy. Yeah. You want to believe the paperwork that came through the mail telling you you're negative for any breast cancer.
Right.
You really want to believe that, but you're afraid not to believe your dreams. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I rationalized to myself. I thought, what is the worst that can happen if I go and I have a second set of tests mm-hmm. and they come back negative too? What's the worst thing that can happen? The doctors can laugh at me. I can live with that.
Right.
But what if the dreams are right and I ignore them? Mm-hmm. I don't want everybody to be crying with me as I'm dying. So I decided to go and take a chance on being laughed at and get that second set of tests. Yeah. And it's a good thing I did, because then we weren't all crying together because I had cancer throughout my whole body because it was already in a lymph node and there was no treatment for me at that point.
Wow. And thank God you did. Just think about how many people wouldn't have or just didn't have the guts to, because you guys have like 60 stories now for your next book, but mm-hmm. just think about all the numbers of people that never acted on those dreams.
And that's why it's so important, Mason, to be on your show, mm-hmm. to tell people, not just women, there are men in this book. Yeah. There are doctors in this book who had dreams about their cancer, who then went to their doctors and said, look, I need a second set of tests.
Yeah.
So, your podcast is so important to the world because, science is a gift from our higher power, and you don't worship the science. You worship the power. And if a dream is coming in telling you the science is wrong, believe the dream. Mm-hmm. Dare to be laughed at. Yeah. Go and request a second set of tests.
It's worth a shot. I mean, you don't have anything to lose at that point.
No, you don't.
And it's unfortunate that I've heard this from quite a few different people, but it's unfortunate that we can't. I don't want to step on anybody's toes as far as like doctors go, but you really do have to sometimes tell them, what you want done, because otherwise you would have just kept running on those same tests.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you have to self-advocate. You really do. Because, and I say this in Surviving Cancerland, if you die, your doctors are going to grieve. They're human beings. I know they cry mm-hmm. when their patients die. But then everything returns to normal and the next patient comes along. But if you self-advocate and you teach your doctors that there's more to medicine than what you can see through a microscope, mm-hmm. look at how far you have helped to bring the next step of healing. Mm-hmm. Because dreams and healing have been a part of mankind since the beginning, since the caveman.
Yes.
And then we started to focus only on science, only what we could see, feel, touch, hear. But there's so much more to the human body than what we can see, feel, and touch, because we are mind, body, and spirit.
Yep. Well said. I agree 100%. How were you with your dreams before all this happened? Were you already super in tune with what you experience in your dreams, or has it always kind of been something that's come easy to you?
Well, I was always a pretty good dreamer. I love a good dream. I love a good scary dream because I love scary movies. I mean, I can't wait to go see the Joker. So,
Awesome.
I have always been a dreamer. In the book that you're listening to now, Surviving Cancerland, I talk about how my husband actually wanted to go and learn to be a waking channel. So I went to basically a school for psychics with him.
Cool.
And I joined their dream group, which I loved, and shared dreams I think it was 2 or 3 times a week with them.
Cool.
And that's when I started really journaling my dreams and realizing just how fascinating dreams were and how much they were a part of our waking world. They're like a roadmap. They're our GPS for where to go, where not to go.
Yeah, that's great. I've heard of those groups as well, and I think it's really important, and it's great. You can do it on a very personal level. You know, you wouldn't. It's not like you have to come on a podcast like mine and share it with the world. You can start small.
Yes.
With a very intimate group and really open up. You know, it doesn't have to be in front of a lot of people, but it's great that those groups do exist.
You know, you said something very important there, Miss, and you said start small. You don't have to start big. You don't have to have monks coming through your dreams through windows to become doors. You can start small and build and grow in your own way. We're all different sizes and shapes in this world. We all have different fingerprints. We all have different loves. We all have different dislikes. And those are all going to show up in your dreams because they're your dreams. They're yours.
Right. Absolutely. And nobody's dreams is ever, you know, that's a one of a kind thing. Nobody else will ever experience what you're experiencing.
Nope, they won't. And that's what makes them so special. They're just yours. And like I said, we're all born with spirit guides and guardian angels, and we're their job, and they take that job very seriously. They love each and every one of you listening very much, and they want to be a part of your life. So meet them in your dreams.
Yeah, one of my guests, Nathan, in episode 3, had basically a visitation dream, and at the end of it, what he said was really interesting. He said there was a boy that drowned, and he was supposed to be watching this group of kids, and everybody kept on telling him, you know, it wasn't your fault, until. And he never believed it and was really depressed until the kid showed up in one of his dreams and told him, hey, man, it wasn't your fault. And he explains that how like this weight off his shoulders would be an understatement, but it totally cured him. And the interesting thing that he said was that people can argue like that's not possible. You know, that doesn't, you know, science can't prove that, or, you know, that, you know, it can't really be proven, but he said, you know, does it really matter? Like if it totally cured him of his depression, like who cares if it can be proven or not? You know, it worked for him, and you know, it totally cured him after that.
Oh, our lucid dreams can be psychotherapy. Instead of taking years and years of going to psychotherapy and spending thousands and thousands of dollars, one good lucid dream can do it all. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you said something else very important, Mason. You said, you know, a lot of people say they can't prove it. And that's where Dr. Larry Burke's book that we wrote together, that's where that book is proving it. And it's not, we didn't write the book to Dr. Bash by any stretch of the imagination. Because our doctors are important. My dreams saved my life, and my doctors saved my life. And that my life was saved because the two of them were together in my life at that time. I don't believe I could have just used my dreams to survive the cancer. Or my spirit guides would not have said, go back to your doctors. That was like an important phrase that they said over and over again. Go back to your doctors. And my doctors, you know, with the guidance from my dreams, you know, made the right chemotherapies available to me, and then I chose them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can kind of prove it. We're reaching a point in the world now in our time frame where we are starting to prove that dreams are real, and the people who died can come back in our dreams and help us through the crisis we're in.
Absolutely. And that's kind of one of the goals through this podcast, is to kind of raise that awareness that if you have so many, as many people as you've had respond to your guys' story, it's not just a rare occurrence. It's something that happens all the time.
Yes. I mean, if we can get 100 people within a year without even looking for them, imagine how many people are really out there.
Yeah.
Just imagine. Lots and lots of them. And the ones in the book that we just did, Dreams That Can Save Your Life, Early Warning Signs of Cancer and Other Diseases, some of the people in the book did not want their name used. They wanted to be anonymous because their families still are having issues with the fact that their dreams saved their life.
Right.
And they don't want anybody to know about it. And some of them also are using anonymous names or pen names because the fact that they used a dream to help with their treatment could affect their insurance.
Wow.
So if you've had a dream that came true about an illness and you want to be in the next book, just contact me at catcan@comcast.net and put From Mason's show in the subject matter, and we won't use your name if you don't want your name used, but your dream story could save another life.
Super, super important to share these stories, I believe. Awesome. That's kind of all the questions I have for you. Do you have any dream goals, like in the future? You explained that snake dream. Are there what are some of the things that you're trying to work through right now?
Well, I want to find out what that multi-headed cobra was.
Yeah.
It was huge. It took up the whole wall. I want to see that, find that. And, I just want to be able to work closely with my spirit guides concerning these books so that the books do the best that they can. I'd really like to get one of them on the New York Times bestsellers list because not so much for me. I don't really even need to be doing these books. I'm fine financially.
Yeah.
But I think it's part of my quest in life, and it's part of my life purpose. Because one of the dreams that's going to be in the next book on when I had the recurrence is after I found out that I had this recurrence, and it was a 9 by 11 centimeter area, which is just scary. Right. I remember I fell asleep on the bed crying because I really did think I was going to die.
Jeez.
And I remember dreaming that I woke up while I was lying on the bed, and there were 3 monks standing over my bed looking down on me. And I said, look, I know why you guys are here. I understand I'm going to die. I got that. I don't know why. I don't know what I ever did that was so bad in this life that I would have to die like this. But you may want to go warn God that I'm coming because I've got some really big bones to pick with him. Yeah. And the monks started laughing. And they said, don't you remember, Kat? And I said, remember what? They said, you said before you were born, when we were all together in a meeting, that you wanted to come back down onto the earth plane during a time when our higher power was being taken out. And it was being shoved in a closet, closed away. And people were not believing in God or higher power anymore. And you were going to show that science goes so far, and then comes our higher power. We told you we'd be with you every step of the way, and we are. And you're doing what you said you were going to do. And that's when I realized I was just fulfilling my life purpose. So writing these books is part of that life purpose in order to show people there is a higher power. Believe in it. When you're in your darkest moment, that higher power is going to shine through.
Absolutely. Really well said. One last question. Do you think, you said you have 3 cats. Do you think animals dream of us?
Oh, I do. And I believe that our animals come back to us in our dreams. And sometimes I know that when I had a dream for someone who had passed over, and the goal, I saw his spirit guides in with my spirit guides, and they said, go tomorrow and tell his family everything that we just discussed. And throughout that dream, there was a black and white cat wandering around the room. And I thought, well, that's strange. What's that cat doing here? And so when I went to this man's mother and said, this is what I had a dream about, I just had to swallow my pride and trust in the dream that she wouldn't hit me with a pan and throw me out of her house. And I told her everything about the dream. And I said, by the way, there was this cat wandering around in the dream, sniffing plants that were in this house. And I described the room, and she goes, oh my goodness, that was his bedroom, and that was his cat.
Whoa. Wow, that's wild.
So that's a validation. Look for the validation in your dreams.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I hope they dream about us, because we definitely dream about them. And absolutely, once they've passed as well, there's definitely heard some stories of pets coming back and revisiting them. So it's super cool to think about.
Yes, I believe they reincarnate too, especially cats. I think they can reincarnate pretty quickly.
That I definitely want to believe in that. Like, that's what I imagine happens, and I'm totally content with that. It's just such a cool thought. Cool. Is there anything else before we sign off that you'd like to share?
No, just thank you so much for having me on your show. I have just enjoyed this. I'm just sitting here looking out the window as I'm talking to you, and it just feels so comfortable.
Cool. That's awesome to hear. Again, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on and chatting with me, and I'll hopefully talk to you soon. All right, folks, that's going to do it for episode 9. Thanks again for listening. I really do appreciate it. I'm on all social media at All Aboard the Dream Train, all one word. If you're interested in more information, go check those out. Shoot me an email, allaboardthedreamtrain@gmail.com. If you have a story to share or know of someone that might, I'd love to hear more about it. I do have a website, allaboardthedreamtrain, all one word.com. If you enjoyed today's show or past episodes, please leave a comment and review on Apple Podcasts or on any podcast platform that you use. I hope you have a great day. Sleep well. Hey Alexa, All Aboard the Dream Train podcast. Subscribe.